Thanks for joining, those of you who are here. I am going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, hopefully you can see that. So the issue that I am going to start working on is this one, eliminate uniqueness checks when uniqueness is ensured through randomness. And I've already started working on it. But just to give you some background, basically, normally when you have a unique index, the unique index itself will enforce that the values in the unique index are unique. But we have a new concept called unique without index, which allows you to guarantee uniqueness on a column that has no index associated with it. So there's that one case. And then in another case, if you have a partitioned table with a unique index and the partitioning columns are implicit so that they're not included in the index definition, then you want to guarantee uniqueness on only the columns that are specified as part of the definition, not any of the implicit partitioning columns that are going to prefix that index. So in order to guarantee that uniqueness, we need to add explicit checks onto any mutations to the table. So insert, update, or upsert. But there are some cases where those checks are overkill and they're not really required to guarantee uniqueness. And one of those cases is when we have a UUID column and we're inserting values using this function gen random UUID. The chance of collisions is extremely low, so it's generally going to be safe to disable the uniqueness checks in this case. We'll still allow customers to turn on the uniqueness checks with a cluster setting, but by default, there won't be any checks in this case. Okay, so hopefully you can all hear and see me. Feel free to comment if there are any questions, and I'll try to check the chat periodically. All right, so I've already started working on this, actually. But I kind of did it wrong at first because I was sort of assuming that we would eliminate uniqueness checks in all cases for the UUID column. But we only want to eliminate the checks when we are explicitly calling this function gen random UUID. So I need to modify what I've done to check for that function. So this is the cluster setting that I've added. I'm going to change the text to indicate that it's only for gen random UUID. Okay. Gonna move this down. All right, and let's see where I'm actually checking this. Okay, so right now I'm basically just checking if the type is UUID, but I want to actually check if we're calling this gen random UUID function. So I'm going to copy what was done in this function since it's doing something similar. It's looking for nulls. And put that down here. Let's see. Column is gen random UID. Okay. So let's see, where was I calling this? Okay, yeah, I need to pass the out scope expr. Okay, and column is gen random UID. Okay, so I'm not going to bother calling this function if it's not a UUID type, but still want to make sure that we only remove the check if we're calling this function. Okay, so because I've copied this from memo, I need to add these modifiers back. And this is going to be a recursive call of itself. And okay, now we don't care if let's see. We're not interested in whether it's a null. We want to know if it's this function is gen random UID function. And that is what's going to get called here and here. And so now we're not looking for nulls. We're looking for a function. And we don't really care about this case. It's a function, and actually, I think we probably don't want to do a switch here. We want to say if func k function k equals func expr. Okay. Then if function dot name that. No, I don't think that's what I want. Okay, I know we do this in other places. Let's see. See if I can grab for. There we go. Function private. Let me look at this thing. Okay. Where did the function private show up? Oh, this is in tree. Okay. Yeah, no, I don't want that's why I couldn't find it. I want this to be a memo dot function, I swear. Okay, now function dot, let's see if there's any questions. I kind of forgot. Thanks for the question. Can I zoom in a bit on my screen? Let's see if I can figure out how to do that. Maybe, no, that doesn't work at all. All right, let's see, help. That didn't really do anything at all, did it? Nope. Well, sorry about that. If anybody knows how to increase font size in Golan, okay, yeah. Maybe preferences. Let's try 14. Did that do anything? No, maybe I have to select everything. I don't know. Well, sorry about that. Hopefully it's not too small. I'm gonna keep moving. All right. And if anybody knows specifically, okay, some people can see it and some people can't. Sorry for those of you who it's too small. Maybe you can zoom in a little on your own screen. All right, let's see. So I'm looking at function name. I think that's all I really care about. And if that is equal to and random UUID, then return true. I don't really like comparing against raw strings like this, but I don't know of a better way to do it for this case. So. All right, I think that might be what we need. We gotta change the comment. The expression. Okay, I think that'll do it. Uniqueness checks for UUID. One of the columns has UUID type. And returns. Okay. Okay, I'm going to rename this because now I've changed the meaning a little bit. For random. Clutch setting for enabling. Use checks for UUID columns. To random. UUID columns. Updated with okay, I think that's probably good. Okay, so now I'm going to update my tests. Oh, now we see the bigger font. Maybe it was just because I was already... Oh, that's strange. All right, well, you'll get to see the tests nice and close. Okay, I already have some UUID tests, so let me find them. And actually, I think I wanted to make the default of this false, because assuming that most people are fine with taking this small risk that there's going to be a collision. But for the people that are not fine, they can always set that to true, and then we'll add the checks. So okay, by default, we do not require checks on. Actually, I'm going to add another UUID column just to make it easier to write these tests. I'll just call it ID1 and ID2. And I'm going to have a unique without index on both of them. I have this kind of random one that has both just to actually, I don't think this is that interesting. I'm just gonna do it on these two. Okay. Find these tests. So inserting into ID1 and ID2 values, and checks and but we do UUID columns set to gender UUID. We do if we do for UUID columns set to other values. Okay. So I am now just inserting a single row where one column is getting gen random UUID and one is getting this other constant UUID. And I should get a check for ID2, but not for ID1. Now I'm going to set this to true because that is going to be checks are required for both columns. Same thing again. Okay, and I'll set it back to false. And then I've got checks for update. We do not require checks in unique columns. So, ID. Oh, I just want to, just gonna copy this comment. Okay. So I'll set ID 1 to generate UUID and ID 2. Oh, let's mix it up. Let's set ID to this and ID 1 equal to our favorite random UUID. Okay. So I'm gonna copy this now. And now this is true. Checks are required. Both columns. And set it back to false. And finally, wonder if I still, oh, I'm just gonna copy the insert stuff for this one because that'll be easier. Okay, here we go. Just gonna copy this whole thing and paste it here. And I'm just gonna change insert to observe. All right, let's see how these tests work. See if there's any questions first. All right, well, good. All right, while this is running, I can give a little refresher for those of you that joined after I talked about what I was doing. So what I'm doing here is I will open up the issue. Eliminate uniqueness checks when uniqueness ensured through randomness. So in general, we ensure uniqueness through defining a unique index on columns, but there's some cases where we want to ensure uniqueness and we don't have an index, or the columns that we want to ensure uniqueness on are only a subset of the columns in that index. And in that case, we need to actually explicitly add checks in the optimizer that those columns are unique. So we already have all the code that adds those checks, but now we're trying to add the optimization of removing checks in certain cases where it's safe to do so. So one of the cases is this case where the column that's getting updated is a UUID column, and it's getting this value gen random UUID, which has a very low chance of collisions, and therefore we can reasonably assume that it'll probably be unique. But for people who are very cautious, we still have a way to opt out using a cluster setting. Okay, so let's see how we're doing. Still running. Any questions before? Oh, no questions. Oh, okay. Unknown cluster setting. Oh yeah, I didn't update the name of the cluster setting. Well, that's good. I can fix that easily. So this all. Oh no. I don't want this random space in here. Oh, and I also want to make sure that I why is it not finding this? It's all. There we go. Okay. Let's try again. If only this part weren't so slow. Spaceonomy is asking uniqueness. Yeah, is your question about what I'm working on? I can go over that again if that would be helpful. Do you want to clarify your questions, Spaceonomy? Okay, yeah, so just to quickly go over again what I'm working on, I am trying to eliminate uniqueness checks in certain cases, and this is important when we have columns that we want to guarantee that are always unique, but we're not necessarily able to enforce that with an index. So this is going to be particularly important for our upcoming release where we're adding a whole bunch of support for multi-region tables. So in these new tables, you can basically convert a normal table that is located in a single region to a multi-region table by converting it to this new concept that we're still figuring out the naming, but right now we're calling it a regional by row table. And by converting it into that type of table, it basically adds a region column in front of every index in the table, but it's an implicit column. So as far as the application is concerned, nothing has really changed. It can still, select star and get all of the original columns of the table without this hidden region column. All of the indexes that are unique should still be unique on the columns that are defined, not including that hidden region column. But the problem is that because that region column is actually physically part of that index, the index itself can no longer guarantee uniqueness of the other columns. So maybe it would help if I actually show an example of what those tables look like. So this is our test file for regional by row. So let's see, let's find a good example. Well, these are all error cases. Okay, so this is kind of an example of a regional by row table where you can see there's no region column anywhere in here. It's just, looks kind of like a normal table, got a primary key, got some other columns, a few different types of indexes, column families. But then we have this declaration that it's got locality regional by row. So by adding this tag, we're basically implicitly adding a region column in front of every index, and we're also adding a hidden region column to the table itself. And that will allow us to partition the table by region. So that region column is going to have a value that corresponds to the region where the row is located. And in order to enforce that, for this unique index, B is actually unique, because under the covers, the unique index has both the region column and B, it can no longer enforce uniqueness on just B alone. So we need to add an explicit check for doing that, which we already have some tests that show those checks being added. Let's see if I can find. Yeah, so this is an example where you can see that we're adding these post queries, which are uniqueness checks. So we're inserting data into this table. We want to make sure that this new row we're inserting is not going to violate any of the unique constraints that we have on any of our columns. So we have a unique constraint on the primary key, as well as that column B that I was showing you earlier that had a unique index on it. And there's also a unique index that was added later in the file on AB. So that's what these checks are doing. And basically, they will throw an error if it turns out that adding this row will violate the uniqueness constraint. Hopefully that helps clarify what we're doing. And then the purpose of what I'm doing today is that these uniqueness checks aren't actually necessary in all cases. So in some cases, we can remove them, which will get better performance for these inserts and updates and so on. Okay, so now this finished successfully. Space on me, most of that went over my head. Sorry about that. Feel free to ask a more specific question. So, yeah, it's a little hard to give all of the background necessary to understand some of this stuff, but as we go along, if any more specific questions come up, feel free to post them in the chat, and I'll try to cover them. I can also another thing. Uniqueness check is what you get. Uniqueness check is what you get when you insert data into a table with a unique constraint. That's true. So typically in Postgres and other databases, all unique constraints are always enforced by a unique index. So the optimizer doesn't need to add an explicit check. But with this new functionality that we're adding, oh, Jordan is, sorry, I thought that was another question from Spaceonomy. Yeah, so because the unique index can't enforce uniqueness, we have to add an explicit check, and we do that in the optimizer. Okay, hopefully that helps clear it up a little bit. So let's see what we have going on here. Okay, so we do not require checks. So we don't want to check on ID 1, which is good. We're only getting a check on ID 2. So that is good. And then when we enable that cluster setting, now we get checks on both columns, ID 1 and ID 2. So that looks good. Now let's take an update. We are now ID 1 is the column that's getting this UUID that we want to make sure we check. So we have a check for that, which is good, and we don't have a check for ID 2 because that's getting gen random UUID. And after we update the setting, now we have checks on both. And for upsert, we're doing the same thing. Let me just make sure these are actually updates. Yep, update, update, insert, insert. Okay, good. And now we're looking at upsert. And once again, ID 1 is the column that gets gen random UUID, so we only need checks on ID 2 unless we enable the cluster setting, in which case we get checks on both. All right, I think that is good. Oh, I think I don't know if I'm sufficiently checking this function because we care about both values and projections. So I think what I might want to do is add another test for projections. And I'm just going to do that for insert because otherwise this gets to be a little bit boring and not necessary. Okay. We don't want to do this for upsert. We just want to do it for insert. So then we can also UUID when it is a projection. Okay. I think I want to update my other table. So I have an other table that I'm using to just insert some stuff into these different tables with uniqueness checks. So let's call this UUID. And hopefully that's not going to screw up all my other tests. I think I'm probably specifically selecting specific columns from other. So other values. Oh, I probably spelled that wrong in every single one of these comments. Let's see. Yeah, there's another one I spelled it wrong. Okay. Okay, when it is a projection. So we're gonna select and random UUID, comma U from other. Let's see if that actually works. To run this test again, which of course takes ages. Let's see. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Jordan, for providing the links. Cool. Different subject than what I thought. So yeah, sorry. Sorry about that, Space on Me. Hopefully it's still interesting. Definitely feel free to ask more questions if things come up. All right, still building this test. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. Yep, that did what we want. We only have a check for ID2, not ID1, because it's part of this projection. So great. Okay, I think this is ready to go. I'm just gonna go ahead and commit this. wonder if I need tests in other files. I feel like this is kind of covering most of what we care about. I'm not sure adding any specific logic tests will be super useful. Well, I guess I could add some logic tests that show that if I already have this value in the database and I try to insert it again, we're going to catch that. Yeah, maybe that's kind of useful. Okay, so let me add a test for that. Just going to copy my table. UUID. Yeah, okay. And I think actually to prevent this from causing test flakes, I need to add some explicit families here. So this is going to be ID1 and ID2. Okay. Let's see. Gonna copy this and in the logic test. And I will go ahead and add that column, UUID. And I'm going to put, did I copy that? No, copied something else. I'm going to copy this value and put it into my other table. Cool, so now should be able to catch this thing. An error. And let's see what error is it going to be. It'll be this thing. I'm probably going to get this wrong. I'll probably just need to copy it again, but ID2 detail key ID2 equals this thing from other. All right, we'll see. Maybe I got that right. Let's see, but this should be okay if I now just put some other random. Oh. Let's just go ahead and change like one of these digits. Okay. We can catch uniqueness violations, UUID columns, set to value other than UUID. Let's try to run this. Okay. I don't need to rewrite because I've already. Oh no, I do need to rewrite. I added that new column to other. I don't know what it's going to change. All right, any questions? Space Automate read uniqueness and instantly thought differential equations. Yeah, this is this is pretty different from differential equations. Sorry to disappoint. Haven't thought about differential equations in years. All right, anyone here need an update or have questions? Ah, here we go. Expected. No error occurred. Well, that's not very good. Oh, duh. Okay, yeah, of course no error should occur because there's nothing in unique UUID yet. Okay, I'm going to insert a value first. Actually, let's just get rid of that weird test case and move this above this other one. All right, let's try this now. I was hoping we'd have time to work on one of these other issues. Looks like this is going to take almost the full hour, though. I blame the slow test running. And writing tests always takes longer than you think. Okay, cool. And that should work. Okay. Oh, I don't think I want the families in this logic test because we like the family randomization for cases when we're not actually looking at the plan. It gets produced. Okay, now I think that looks pretty good. Okay, now I'm gonna try to commit this stuff. Remove uniqueness checks for UUID. Cluster setting. What did I call this? Okay, and this is going to fix this thing. And we need a release justification since we are now in the stability period. This is a low risk update to new functionality. All this uniqueness check stuff is new this release. And release note, SQL change. Well, I guess there's technically two changes, so which controls, how did I describe it? Creation of weakness checks. And enabled uniqueness checks will be added for the UUID column if it has a unique constraint that can be enforced. When disabled, no uniqueness checks. Okay, hopefully that is enough. All right. Cool, this is gonna work out great. I'll open the PR right as this stream is ending. Okay. Just add some nice tick marks to make it clear, a little bit clearer. Okay. Gonna add Marcus and Radu and the multi-region team. Okay. Done. All right. Any questions in the last 2 minutes? Don't be shy. All right. Well, thanks all for joining. I think I'm gonna stop now since I'm not gonna get a whole lot done in 2 more minutes, but thank you for joining. And see you not in a couple of weeks because I'll probably be on vacation, but in about a month. Thanks for joining.